friends. Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts. We are here celebrating Belhaven's 30th anniversary, the dance department's 30th anniversary, and it's been so fun doing this alumni series. And today I'm super excited to be here with Elle Ciccarone. Hopefully I said that correctly.
You did.
Practicing. Okay. And so excited to have you and get to just catch up today on the podcast. Thanks for being here, Elle.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of started chatting pre-hitting record, so we'll dive back into that. But we were just talking about the reunion that happened last fall and how fun it was just to see people doing their thing and just their unique callings and giftings and stuff like that. Kind of just seeing people like at different stages and thriving.
Yeah, I agree. Like just seeing where everybody is on their journey and just all the different experiences that everyone has had and in different ways was just like really like encouraging and inspiring.
Yes, for sure. And I'm so glad we got to reconnect there too.
Yeah,
and just seeing the work that you're doing now with the MFA program. And I know we'll dive into that more. But when did so you're currently an MFA student at Belhaven. What year did you start that process?
2023, because I have one more year. So I'll hopefully graduate next May of 2026.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
Exciting. Yeah. And it was so fun because you had a piece in the fall concert as well, which was really cool. It was really neat seeing like the collaboration with musicians. And for those that weren't there, maybe we'll talk more about it, or try to describe it. But it was really a cool concept, I feel like, of like improvisation to a degree, like a structured improvisation almost. Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, I mean, most of it was set. There were some moments that there was a little bit of room for some improvisation. The music was mainly improvised, and the movement was set. So kind of with the process was that I was setting movement and having the musicians come in and then improvise based off of the set movement.
Got it.
I think since the movement was set, the improvisation tended to it started to play like similar things every time.
They kind of figured out a flow.
Slightly different, so it felt like it had this like life to it, I guess, but still like set enough where the dancers kind of had a little bit of like guidance and knowing what to expect.
Right. I thought that was such a cool concept. Yeah. It was fun to get to experience it live. It's great to see a video, but it's never quite the same as being there in person. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Especially if it's, not like intended for the camera, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sidetrack there. But so do you want to, obviously MFA program, but you want to just maybe take a moment to introduce who you are and where you are now, and then we'll dive into your story.
Sure. So I am Elle Ciccarone, and I am currently an MFA student at Belhaven. So I'm also a graduate teaching assistant. So I teach the undergrads while simultaneously working on my MFA. So I have 1 year left, and I'm also teaching at some local dance studios and some schools. And I've done a little bit of work with Kinetic Etching's dance company in the area as well. So I'm just kind of keeping it local and doing the Jackson stuff and living in Belhaven again and just, really enjoying it.
Back in the Jackson arts community, which is very cool. And
very small, but very unique and just so welcoming. And I love it.
That's so great.
Yeah.
And what's fun is so what year did you graduate from Belhaven undergrad?
2015.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So, because we overlapped a little bit while we were both there in undergrad. So it's fun, like seeing kind of the journey and reconnecting now. But it'll be cool to hear your experience, kind of undergrad versus MFA as well, now that is part of the program. And so maybe we'll rewind though a little bit to like when you first were growing up and starting to get into dance and into the arts. So what was maybe the first, like your first experience getting into the arts and dance world?
feel like my journey starts pretty similar to a lot of other dancers where I started ballet when I was really young. I think I was like 5. But it was a small dance studio in this woman named Shayna. It was in her basement. And she just had like a basement converted into a dance studio with like mirrors and bars and Marley and all of that.
Aw,
So
I love that.
it was a really cool, like fun, small like group of people and dancers. And I just loved like performing. She would make all the skirts and the scrunchies, and like we would all,
Aw.
it was like the younger class would perform with the older class, and we would perform at like nursing homes and stuff. So I got the experience of like what that was like to like, do more of like
Yeah.
outreach based dance even when I was a kid. And I just remember thinking it was
Yeah.
really cool, and like watching the older girls dance and just thinking like, wow, they're amazing. And then she would always perform too, her and her sister, because they ran the school together. I think they were
Oh, okay.
maybe like 20 years old. They were like very young, but they would like perform solos and perform together. And I just remember being very inspired, like from a very young age, and just really
Mm.
loved it. And I especially loved, she let us do a lot of creative movement. And I really
Oh,
liked that. I was always just like moving because I think I was a pretty hyperactive kid. So it was like a space where I could just like, just be moving the whole time. And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and she would do a lot of creative games. So I think from a young age, I like realized that creativity and dance kind of went hand in hand,
Oh, that's
which was
neat. Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
That experience there is really special. And I think also to have kind of that outreach connection
Hmm.
from a young age is pretty special and
Yeah.
unique compared to maybe a lot of like traditional studio settings,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
So
Like the big
that's
recital.
so
Yeah, I didn't
cool.
do any of that.
Hmm.
And then also I was, I still am, but was very small, petite little child. So like, I didn't like sports, so like dance was like a good physical outlet. So, and then you
Yeah.
could fast forward if you like, because I danced at a bunch of different studios, but then I ended up at more of like a ballet conservatory when I was in middle school and high school. So that was very like
Hmm.
pre-professional ballet world experience, which was very different. So we didn't do a lot of like
Nice.
improvisation. There was less focus on creativity, a lot more focus
Mhm.
on perfection. And while it was a really difficult environment, I am grateful for the training I received because it was like really high quality training. They're associated
Yeah.
with CPYB, which is like a very well-known like dance school in Pennsylvania. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was very good training and very good like, to have that foundation and technique.
That's awesome. Yeah. And kind of seeing the contrast there, but being able to take different elements into what you do now and, what you've been able to experience through the years as a performer as well, I'm sure. So that's
Hmm.
awesome. And I think you mentioned something about having a connection with your faith and dance from a young age and creativity. Do you mind sharing a little bit more of that and kind of
Yeah.
how dance or faith and worship kind of interwove with your dance
Yeah,
journey?
absolutely. It was kind of like organic. Like I never had anyone come up to me and be like, you can worship through dance. I think like
Yeah.
one of the I forget what year it was, but one of the Christmases, my parents they did such a sweet thing and they converted one of the rooms in our basement into a little dance studio for me with like a
Aw.
mirror and like a little bar and like floor and stuff. So I would just like improv down there like constantly and just like put on music, like even all like the angsty like, teenage music, and then I would put on like worship music too. And I just remember having these like very like spiritual experiences when I was improvising to work the worship music. And I remember like sometimes if I was like having a hard time or feeling sad, I would start praying and then I'll start moving and I would just like have this experience where I felt very close to God and I felt like I was like in the presence of God. Um,
Mm.
and so it was like, yeah, I think I just like, I did make the connection that like movement and prayer and like it was all intertwined. And then I'd had a
Mm.
couple opportunities to perform like solos at church for like special services and that kind of thing. So yeah, like I remember
Mhm.
one year it was a Christmas Eve service and I was like to the song Mary Did You Know, and I was like portraying like young Mary, and I just remember like feeling so like I don't know, just like putting myself in her shoes and feeling very like emotionally
Mm.
moved as I was dancing. And yeah, so it was just kind
Wow.
of happened and without being
Yeah.
like we didn't have like a church dance like group or whatever. It was just kind of like, hey, you can dance. Do you want to do this?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I love that it was pretty organic for you, just sort of happened through your journey. And that's really neat about understanding a connection from a young age between like prayer and movement
Mhm.
and how that could be like an expression of communicating with God. That's super
Yeah.
cool because I feel like for a lot of us, it's sort of this later in life, like, oh, yeah, that would be neat to try to connect the two, you know? So
Yeah.
love that. Yeah. And that it can be such a form of expression and sensing peace through
Yeah.
that and like being able to bring whatever we may not even have words for, you know?
Yeah, and I just remember like, my parents, they did like mission work and that kind of thing. So I was like around that culture and I just remember feeling so passionate about God and I felt like I
Mm.
couldn't fully express it just like even through like the worship songs at church. But then like once I started moving, I was like, then I felt
Mm.
like I could like really express like my passion for God and like my faith. So
Yes.
yeah, it
Love
was
that.
cool to have that like outlet and I feel really grateful for that. It's definitely got me
Hmm.
through some hard times too, like even as like a young person to have that kind of outlet
Hmm.
for connection to God and experiencing peace.
Yes, for sure. So neat. Well, thanks for sharing. That's awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Uh, so curious how the transition to Belhaven happened, or what brought you to Belhaven.
Yeah, well, this is kind of a long story, so I'll give the short version.
Sounds good. No worries.
I originally, when I graduated high school, I was a very like, I was pretty like adventurous and I wasn't super like into like like I didn't think of a particular subject I wanted to study. I didn't plan on going into dance initially. I knew I really liked
Okay.
English and creative writing, but I think that's a whole other tangent, but that's the challenge of high school is that you're only studying these like few subjects and there's so many careers out there. So it's so hard to like know what you want to do when you're 18.
Yes.
I knew I wanted to live near the beach.
Ooh, yes.
Needless to say, Belhaven wasn't my first choice. My mom, she actually found the school, and she's the one. She kind of encouraged. She's like, "You should go to school for dance." And I had actually taken a break at that time because I was very burnt out from the like really rigorous studio I was attending. So I was like, "No, like
Hmm.
I need to take a break from dance." And I didn't think I was like good enough to go into dance professionally.
Hmm.
So I just went to the school I got accepted to in Florida because I wanted to, like I said, be near the beach. And I was an undeclared major, and I got there and I didn't like it at all.
Gosh,
I
yeah,
felt
yeah.
like I didn't really fit in with the atmosphere and like a lot of the students there. We're just from like wealthier families, and I just felt like I couldn't really relate to them. So
Mm.
when you're 18, you really need to feel like you belong, especially you're so like
Yeah,
insecure and like all of the things. So I ended up
right.
dropping out and moving back home. And so I took a gap year, but I ended up in a relationship that was pretty unhealthy. And it got to the point where I needed
Mm.
to leave the state. So
Okay, yeah.
I really think this was a God thing because I was at a point where I really
Mm.
didn't know where to go or what to do. And I found the acceptance letter from Belhaven in my room. And I was like, okay, it's in Mississippi, that's far away. And I just called them up
Yeah.
and I was like, hey, I got accepted a year ago, but could I come this year? And they were like, absolutely, like, come on down, in like good old Mississippi
Yeah.
fashion. So I
Exactly.
didn't even visit. I'd never been to Mississippi before. I'd never been to anywhere in the deep South. So I
Wow.
just
Okay.
packed a bag, and this was like in August. Like I think it was like a week away from when classes were starting
Oh
that
my
I like
goodness.
decided
Yes.
to go. So I showed up like a day before classes were starting, and on Belhaven campus just by myself, and was very confused and culture shocked.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah,
Oh
so
man.
I was
It's like,
again an
okay, new
undecided
world.
major. Do you want me to talk about how I ended up being a dance major?
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love
Okay,
to hear.
because I didn't plan on being a dance major. So
Okay.
I was living in, I think, did you also live in Caldwell?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
because
So
I
I
knew
think
you
that's
from
probably
there.
where we met
Yeah. So,
originally. It's
yeah,
so funny, like thinking back and how things kind of get fuzzy. I'm like, I feel like I'll never forget all these things. And then,
yeah,
anyways,
I
it's over
know.
10 years later.
The
But
older
yeah,
you get, the
definitely
harder you
Caldwell Hall.
yeah.
Yes.
But so I picked Caldwell as my dorm, and I just like, so anyways, I was trying to like settle in. I was like getting used to like meeting all these really kind young women. I wasn't used to like interacting with like young women that were so kind. It was just like
Yeah.
I came from such a different culture, I think, and just the people that I'd grown up around were so different. So I was just like
Mm.
very confused, and I was at a hard time in my life. So Anyways, I wandered across the street to Bitsier because I was like, that building looks cool. And I just wandered up the stairs and I happened to hear in there, I heard music and I peeked into one of the studios and there were these people in wheelchairs that were moving and dancing to music and then also like able-bodied individuals like moving and dancing with them. And
Wow.
I just like tears started streaming down my face because my dad had MS, and so he had been in a wheelchair most of my life, and just like seeing
Wow.
that really like impacted me, and I just
Mm.
felt so moved, and I was like, I didn't know you could do that kind of a thing. I had never seen anything like that before
Wow.
with dance. So I was like, this place is like different than what I'm used to, the conservatory that I'm used to. So I was like, I think I'm going to give
Yes.
it a chance. So I wandered into, I think, yeah, it was Miss Newland's office. She was the chair at the time. And I was like, hey, how do I be a dance major? And she was like, well, you can take the placement class as your audition. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't have any of my dance clothes. I wasn't prepared. I didn't dance in a couple years. My roommate, who was Carly,
Yeah.
uh-huh, yep. So she lent me some
So much
stuff, and
love
this
for
other,
Carly.
you know, this other,
And for Miss Newland, honestly. Like,
yeah,
such beautiful women.
I
Yeah.
know. They're going to be sprinkled all through my story, all these wonderful women.
Love it.
Yeah, so people just that I had met, all these night they just like lent me like tights and leotard and stuff for a bun, and before I knew it, I was in the placement class, and I
It's
remember
awesome.
it did not go well. And I say that to people, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm sure it was great." No, 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 it did not go well. Like I remember, like it was just I did not do well. I didn't pick up the combinations. Like I was very rusty. I was out of shape. And I just remember afterwards, I was like, "Well, that was fun." And I went up to Miss Newland, and I was like, I think I apologized. I was like, "I'm so sorry. Like I was just like doing this for fun, and like I totally understand if like you don't accept me or whatever." And she was like, "Oh no, you're accepted as a dance major and we're going to give you a scholarship." And I think that she
Oh,
said that because like she knew that I was supposed to be there because that woman
yeah.
listens to God.
She does.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I became a dance major and the rest is history, and it just super changed my life. Like I think if I wasn't in the dance department, I would have had a whole different experience that probably wouldn't be as
Mhm.
impactful, and it wouldn't have launched me into like, the artist that I am today. So I just feel really
Right.
grateful for
That's incredible.
God orchestrating all of that. None of
Yeah.
it was on purpose, so it was God. I didn't go there being like, I'm going to be a dance major. I'm going to, you know, do dance
Mhm.
as my profession or like, so yeah.
Yeah. Just, he knew
Hmm.
where he wanted you to be
Yeah.
at what time and got you there
Hmm.
through the path of life. And that
Yeah.
is so cool. That
Yeah.
is such a cool story. I don't know, like, it's possible maybe I had heard some of that before, but I don't know if I had. That is so cool about just how that all transpired. So thank you. Yeah, for sharing all that. As far as looking back at your time at Belhaven in undergrad, is there like maybe one or two things that stand out from your that season of life and kind of how it impacted you and your journey moving forward?
Yeah. So some highlights from my time, I would say overall, main highlight was just the people. I think I've never had such a supportive Christian community. And
Mhm.
just like a community of like people that were super comfortable in their calling and their artistry. Like I had never seen such like, for example, the church that I attended, like their version of art, that I would see would be like a painting of a landscape and a verse. So, like that to me, like that
Yeah.
was Christian art, or like, a dance that was you know, like the dance I did in church, like the story of Mary, and. So
Right.
I didn't think of, art just being like done by anything. It could be any
Mhm.
abstract, but just like, created or performed by a Christian artist. Therefore, the Spirit of God is infused through the work
Mm.
in a way that may be more subtle, not less impactful, but, perhaps less obvious and have more layers and dynamics and depth. And I just think
Mhm.
that that was really, really wonderful to see. And that really inspired me. So, I found that I loved choreographing and creating, and it's a really
Yeah.
beautiful creative outlet. So yeah, I would say like the people and the community, like because I'm still really good friends with people that I went to undergrad with, and then just
Mhm.
the Christian artistry and just like the level of artistry and just like the high
Right.
level of dance being done there. all in the name of Jesus was just really awesome. And I was like, yeah, I didn't know that dance could be this way. Again, just like when I saw the dancers with the wheelchairs, and just kind of opened my mind and my heart to a whole new world of being a creative dance artist. So, yeah.
That's so well put. I feel like I can relate to that experience of, you're just the broadened perspective on what it could look like to be an artist that's, informed by our faith.
Yeah.
And that's maybe so much broader than we had experienced before.
Yeah.
So that's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, do you want to give us kind of the recap of from undergrad to then coming back for your MFA, sort of like, I know that's a big season, but whatever you feel like sharing in that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll try to be as like condensed as possible because that was like 8 years, but
right.
Yeah.
That's the beauty, I guess, of long form being a podcast. So we have we have time.
Okay, cool. So I ended up moving after I graduated from Belhaven. I had met my now ex-husband while I was in school, and we moved to New Orleans together. He got a really good job over there, and I was just kind of like along for the ride because I was like, oh, New Orleans, that's a place where a lot of art happens. So I was like, surely I'll make some connections and be able to do some work there. So we moved there, and I didn't have a job at first, but it didn't take long. I think maybe it was like I was there within a month and I had like 6 jobs. So I just thought, yeah, it was just a really like, again, similar to Jackson, a little bit bigger of a community, but a very welcoming community. I think I did the right things when I first moved there. So I went and I took classes at all the different studios. And they do have a good amount of studios that offer like adult classes and like pre-professional and professional dance. Yeah, which is not this case everywhere. So that was cool. And I met a couple people, and I feel like God just led me to the right people because I met like 3 or 4 people from those classes. And before you know it, I was teaching at this studio. I was dancing with this company. I was choreographing something for school. I was just doing all these things. And also it was really encouraging to see like, because when you're in like a bubble, like such as a dance department in a university, you kind of like, you're used to just comparing yourself to everyone within the department. So I never felt like I was like one of the top dancers or whatever. Like I felt more confident in like my choreographing abilities than like my dancing. But when I moved to New Orleans, I just had all these people come up to me and they were like, where did you train? Like, you're so talented and all this stuff. And it was just like so encouraging. Not that like I didn't get any encouragement at Belhaven, because I did.
Right. But we're kind of in that constant comparison mode for sure.
It's just different because like, and I could tell too, I was like, oh, I do have really, good technique compared to like some people who've come from other college dance programs who I'm meeting here. So that was really encouraging. Awesome. And and I just had a lot of people that wanted to work with me, and, just a lot of like, I would become friends with people and then they would give me a job. So it was really like a lot of like relationship building, and then like jobs that came from that. And then like, work with this person. Oh, I've worked with her. You should work with her too. And then, start working up with another person. So yeah, before I knew it, I was teaching at like 3 or 4 different dance studios in the city. And I was dancing with 2 contemporary dance companies. Oh, and I also was working for Chick-fil-A as their marketing director. That's kind of another job I just kind of fell into, which was fun. I got to do like creative events for the kids and like family event planning and that kind of thing. So it was like another creative, but like not dance outlet, which was, I think, is very necessary. So
yes, it's good to have that.
Yeah.
Good to have a little bit of that variety, and exactly. Different experiences are good too.
Yep. So I did that for a while. I ended up dancing with the Marigny Opera Ballet as well for a couple seasons, and I choreographed some stuff for them. I choreographed some things for another company I danced with, and then ended up establishing my own company, ELLEvate Dance. And along the way, I had a myriad of different jobs. Like I would do like substitute teaching in schools. I would do marketing. I did marketing for a church. I did administration for an arts nonprofit. And then eventually I ended up directing a dance department for a performing arts school. So it was a school that had several locations around the city owned by musicians. And they had a music department, a theater department, and a dance department. So they didn't know anything about dance. So they
Okay.
were like, Elle, you just do all the dance stuff. So I found myself in charge of making a department of like, hundreds of dancers function across 3 different locations. So that was
Wow. Yeah.
exciting and a lot of work, but it was also nice because it was a more like, I had that later on when I was there. The last 2 or 3 years I was there, I had that job. So it was more
Okay.
stable and it was like a salary job. So I was able to let some of the other freelance work go, which was good because I was
Hmm.
getting pretty tired because freelancing can get exhausting. So
For
yeah,
sure.
those
Yeah.
are all the things I did work wise. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I
Mhm.
love that you were able to continue developing as a choreographer and getting those experiences and opportunities and teacher. And
Yeah.
then I know you said you started your company, ELLEvate Dance Company. Is it called ELLEvate Dance Company?
Yes.
Is that like the full title? Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's still in existence, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely since
That's
I'm not
awesome.
there, I've kind of like not really been doing anything with the company. It still
Hmm.
exists. But yeah, the last thing we did was last summer, we did a little creative creator collective with some other artists. We went to like a little
Mm.
getaway in the Gulf Shores and we all like created something over like a week long process and made some films and stuff. So that was pretty
Oh,
cool.
neat.
But yeah, that was the last time I did something like under that
Okay.
company name.
Nice. But that's awesome. So, what inspired you to start your company originally?
Yeah, so I actually didn't really like plan to start a dance company when I was there. I was doing a lot of stuff and I was getting to choreograph, but I actually had some friends who I'd worked with who were in some of my work and they were like, "Elle, you should start your own company." And I was like, "Oh, should I?" And they just like
I
had
love it.
such confidence in me that was
Hmm.
just really like encouraging and kind of like helped push me towards like, oh, maybe I could do this because I felt passionate about having a company that just did a lot of like out of the box kind of work. I had all these ideas
Hmm.
and I just like, I danced with some really great companies, but I saw the different things, like, the different ways that, you know, I was passionate about a company being run. Like I was passionate about a company being very collaborative and
Yeah.
just providing space for everyone in the room to have a voice and paying dancers and doing all this stuff. So I felt
Hmm.
very passionate about like creating an environment and the fact that people were willing to dance for me as artistic director. I was like, okay, let's do this. So I started out with 4 dancers and I ended up with like, I think there was 10 by the time
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
we did our last couple of things before I left New Orleans. But yeah,
Hmm.
and I also wanted to do an all female company as well. Like I just wanted to create this environment where we could just like, be women supporting women in the arts and just be really
Mm.
like uplifting. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it
I
ended
love the
up
heart
being
behind that.
a really bright spot in my life.
Yes, for sure. And that's neat that it's still in existence in the sense of like you could continue or do some things in the future, which is
Yeah.
awesome. So I know you're in the trenches of MFA at the moment.
Yeah, girl, deep in the trenches.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So thinking back on just your performance experiences and teaching experiences, even like through today, any like main lessons stand out to you so far in your journey, or things that like words of encouragement or wisdom for fellow choreographers, fellow teachers out there, or
Yeah,
fellow performers, I guess. All the things.
so many things. I've learned
That's a
so
very
much.
broad. Sorry,
I think the
feel
more
free to narrow down.
mistakes you make, the more you learn, and I've definitely made a lot of mistakes. So I feel like I
Yeah.
have a bank of wisdom because of that. So I feel
Mm,
very grateful for the lessons that I've learned. I think
love that.
that it's really important especially as a younger professional dancer starting out to know how to advocate for yourself and what that looks like.
Mm, yeah.
You hear the term like advocate for yourself, but you don't really know, if you haven't seen that lived out, it's hard to know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So I think
Any
that,
like main tips that like practical things that you would say
yeah,
would
I would
fall in that
say
category?
like know your worth, like know that there's a value to your work. If you have a degree
Hmm.
in dance, you should always be paid for dancing. I give the
Yes.
example sometimes to the undergraduate students that, if you got a degree in like chemistry, you wouldn't work for a lab for free when you graduate. You would expect to be paid, right? So just
Yeah.
like kind of having that parallel of like, if you have your degree in this, you should be paid. It's a little different if like a company is offering you something in exchange, like if it's a learning experience and you want to do that, you want to take on more of like,
Yeah.
internship or that kind of thing. However, if it's something that you already have if it's like something for choreography or dance, like you have your degree in that. So should be
Mm-hmm.
compensated. So that was one of the
That's
things
good.
that I learned, and I learned how to set my rate. I learned how to not feel bad or mean for telling a company or a studio like this is my
Mhm.
rate and I don't go below that rate. Especially when you
Right.
have
That's good.
experience, you can even show them your resume. You can be like, I've been teaching for 10 plus years, because I actually taught dance when I was 15 at studios, like 15 through 18, and then I taught through college.
Yeah.
So coming out into the teaching world, I already had experience. So, I was able to kind of set my rate and be like, this is what it is. Because I think not saying anything bad about dance studio owners, like owning a dance studio is very difficult. I directed a dance department, so I know, all the ins and outs and how difficult it can be. And, but I
Hmm.
think that, often it's hard when you're managing so much to realize that like, you ask a lot is often placed on the instructors, a lot of outside work outside of the time that they're compensated for. So I would often
Right.
have scenarios where I would be asked to like, oh, can you choreograph this? Can you choreograph that? Can you respond to these parents about these complaints or do these things outside of, the 5 hours a week or whatever that I was paid to actually teach? And I would have to say, like, I can do that, but I'm expecting my hourly rate for that work, or, even
Right.
having, okay, well, this is my teaching rate, this is my administration rate. So if you expect me to do
That's
administration
good.
for the
Yeah.
studio, I'd be happy to do it if I have time, but
Yeah.
here's my rate, that kind of things.
Right. Or
And those are
choreography,
just
same
like the
thing.
nitty
Yeah.
gritty, like business things.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah, just important.
And not really, like you said, widely understood, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So for
Yeah.
a lot of teachers or
Yeah.
choreographers out there. So yeah,
Because it is
that's so
possible
good.
to make, a career out. You can make, livable wage out of doing dance related things as long as you don't work for free.
Right.
So yeah,
Exactly.
and
Give
just
away
like
our
even
time.
like looking outside the box, like beyond teaching choreographing dancing, there's a lot of other like dance related things. Like you could like, choreograph routines for like a musical, or you could teach like creative movement. Like right now I'm teaching some PE classes for 3, 4, and 5 year olds at like an early learning center. So like we're just doing like fun movement games and there's not really like dance per se, but as a dancer,
Yeah.
like I'm able to be physical with the kids and know, all the
Yes.
things
I
that can
love
get them
that.
moving. And yeah, so those are the practical things.
Hmm.
Networking, just like really making sure that you go through your jobs and your gigs, whatever you're doing, with integrity, and
Hmm.
that you don't want to burn bridges, because
Yeah.
like the way everything works is like, people talk about other people, and everyone's gonna be asking, it's word of mouth is mainly like, especially in the
Right.
arts community, like how people get jobs. And I've known different companies or choreographers that didn't want to work with a certain dancer just because of their personality. Like they were a great dancer, but we
Hmm.
don't want to work with them because they're difficult to work with.
Yeah.
I experienced like, you know, I had like friends who I loved as people and they're beautiful dancers, but I didn't want to hire them because I knew they would never show up on time and maybe they won't even show up for a show because they were just like unreliable. So that's another thing too,
Mm.
is like just it can sometimes pay off to just be reliable and to just show up.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that relationships, good communication. I think that, especially if you're in an undergraduate dance program, like you're learning all these things, like all these things are expected of you. You're expected to do your assignments, to show up on time. You're
Yeah.
expected to contribute and collaborate in the classroom, like, the participation, like all of that. And all of that is going to
Hmm.
serve you in the real world as well. It's not as like,
Mm.
controlled. It's not as much of a controlled environment where all this is being like graded per se, but like all of those skills really help to,
Yes.
push you towards a place where you can stand out and have success in
Right.
the field. Like a lot of the jobs I would get were mainly just because people would say like, Elle's a really great person to work with. You should work with her. It's not like, oh, that person's
Yes.
choreography is amazing. Work with them. Like, I mean, doesn't really matter. Like, obviously it matters, if you're
Yeah.
doing like,
You want
if your
quality
part
work,
is cool or
but
like
yeah.
that's great. But like,
Uh-huh.
really, it's more like that person's personality. Like this person is great and easy to
Mm-hmm.
work with. Like when I would hire like a light board operator for my personal shows, like people would be like, "Oh, this person's great to work with. They're really like easygoing. They show up on time, blah blah blah." I'd be like, "Boom,
Mm-hmm.
hired." Like not like, "Oh, let me see like
Yes,
an example of like lighting that they've done." It's like, so it
exactly.
really does go a long way. How you treat people, how you show
Mm-hmm.
up goes a long way.
Such good wisdom, and 100% second that. So good. And it's interesting. So by the time your episode is live, there'll probably be a few others that have come out before then. But a theme that I feel like I'm hearing a little bit or seeing is that sense of like, the things that we learned in those undergrad classes and doing choreography or working through shows and things like that, that discipline and
Yeah.
kind of having to figure out how to stay consistent or how to show up on time and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like that it really does serve us so well in
Yeah.
just life, whether that's in the dance field or not.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
so
and it's
good.
really
I
cool
love
to
it.
come. This is probably going to come later in the conversation too, but the full circle of that of like now coming back and teaching and realizing like,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of took some things for granted and now I can kind of like pass that wisdom on to the undergraduate
Mm-hmm.
students and, you know, really help them understand that the things that we're doing, they're valuable and like I've experienced the value in like the work ethic instilled. Like, yeah, we might
Yes.
like you might be stressed out, you might not have a lot of time on
Yeah.
your hands, but honestly, that's not going to change if you want to be a freelance dance artist or even like a dance teacher, whatever you're going to do. You're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to be really busy. You're probably going to have a lot on your plate to juggle. You're probably going to be stressed, but you're going to have to show up on time. You're going to have to get your work done. You're going to have to contribute and collaborate, and you're going to have to create work and choreography quickly. Like all the things that you're doing, like it is a mirror of the real professional dance world. And
Yes.
that's just like super important. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just think that it's hard to understand that when you're in it, or hard to just like,
Yeah. To
yeah,
value kind of what you're, yeah, what
yeah.
you're
So I think
getting.
even just being able to hear that, because no one really, I think I would hear some professors say that like similar things sometimes, but I don't think anyone was as like direct with me. They were just like,
Yeah.
it was more just like I felt like, oh, I have to do this, or else I won't
Mm-hmm.
pass, or else I won't get an A, and I just have to do it. But so it's really like nice to be able to tell them like really like the true why behind like this isn't just about your
Mm-hmm.
grade. Like yes, your grade is important, but this is for you so that you could be a good
Right.
human when you leave here, so that you could
Yes.
hired human when you leave here. And like you need to
Exactly.
build up resiliency. Now I'm going to go on a whole tangent, but like you need to build up resiliency. You need to like have some grit as a dancer, because if you struggle with some feedback, receiving feedback
Mm-hmm.
from professors who really love and care about you and are coming from a kind place, if you struggle with that, you're going to really struggle when you go out there and people are giving you feedback that's not so kind and not even to help you, but just
Yeah.
because they want to be mean and vindictive, because that could happen. And that's like part of the dance world can be very like cutthroat. It's definitely, you know, getting a little bit better than it was before, but yeah, you just have to be able to know who you are and be resilient and to kind of roll with the punches and be okay with some redirection or, needing to
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just criticism.
Yes. Yes. I love that you have the ability to come in and speak that in kind of a different way because you were also in their shoes.
Mm.
And I know there's other people that are professors now as well or teaching there and have also gone through it. So,
Yeah.
but I love it that you're able to just kind of be a little bit maybe closer to that their experience and say, hey, like this is good. This is good for you.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't feel like it or
Yeah.
whatever. So, yeah. And just learning those like time management skills and all the things. It's
Yeah.
just also helpful. So, speaking of,
Yeah.
let's go there and talk about the
Yep.
MFA program
Okay.
and what that experience has been like coming back. And I love, we kind of do like a little pre-interview questionnaire thing. And I love you said something about how it feels like familiar, the environment, like a familiar environment, but also at the same time new. So
Yeah.
I would love to hear you just like expand on that and what
Yeah.
this experience has been like for you.
Of course. Well, I certainly didn't plan on going back to school really ever. Kind of just like undergrad. I don't really
Yeah, the
like,
Lord is like, you know what? I'm just gonna like bring you to these places and seasons, even though
yeah,
you have no clue that this is coming, kind
it
of thing.
seems to be a theme in my life. Like, I make plans for things, they fall apart, and then God makes other plans for me, and I'm just like, okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't plan on it, but I'm so grateful that I'm here. Something
Hmm.
happened in my personal life that was very difficult that kind of launched me into needing to pursue something different and go to a new place, kind
Hmm.
of similar to what happened all those years ago when I was 18. So,
Yeah.
I applied at a couple different grad schools. I was going to move back home to Pennsylvania, and I got accepted to some schools over there. I was looking into doing dance movement therapy, but then I just got this little something, little sprinkle in my brain from the Lord where he was like, what about Belhaven? They have an MFA program. And I was like, well, I don't want to just do dance specifically, God, and I want to do all these other things. And, I don't, I feel like,
Mhm.
I've already been there. I want a new experience, all this stuff. But I happened to be in Jackson for something else that I was doing. And I just sensed like, oh, maybe you should just go talk to someone about it. So I ended up speaking with Erin Rockwell, she's the head of the MFA
Yeah.
department. And
Love
she
Erin
just,
as well.
yeah, she just gave me a lot of like, just information and, put into perspective, like, what the program would look like. And she told me a little bit more about dance movement therapy that I wasn't aware of. And just, it kind of like shifted my focus to realize that like I actually want to do the things that dance movement therapy does, but from more of a creative and free flowing approach than the scientific like dance movement therapy evaluation. Not that they don't have any
Gotcha.
creative elements, but it really just I realized that I wanted to do more like maybe somatic things, and that could be an area that I could, pursue in the dance department as an MFA student. So
Ah, that's cool.
so
Yes.
I auditioned for the program and got accepted. And also when I realized that it was a full ride scholarship in exchange for teaching, and that wasn't an option at the other places that I gotten accepted into, it just felt
Hmm.
like very much a God thing because I didn't want to pay for grad school. I did feel in my spirit this conviction that you shouldn't pay for grad school. So I just felt this really settling from the Lord to come back here. And I asked God for a final sign. I was like, God, I really need a final sign because I really don't know about coming back to Jackson. So I was I was here for the audition. I was staying at Cynthia Newland's house, and I was on my way to go see one of the concerts at Belhaven after my audition, and a tree fell on my car. It was like in her
I
neighborhood.
remember hearing about this or
Yeah, so
seeing her post, or maybe even your post
yeah, I think a
on
couple
social
people
media.
posted
So,
about it. But yeah, I was driving and the
yeah,
tree fell right on my car and it missed
it's
me by a couple
wild.
inches. And if
Oh
it
my
didn't
goodness.
miss me by those inches, I would have probably not be here in this interview today.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was just like incredible. Like I just felt this like bubble of safety around me. Like there's glass flying
Mm.
everywhere, like electrical, because there's electrical wires involved. And I just had maybe like a tiny little scratch on my face, and that was it. And it was just kind of like this amazing thing. And a lot of people, I think, could interpret it that as like, okay, that's a sign you shouldn't go to Jackson because a tree's gonna fall on your. But I sense so deeply in my spirit God saying to me, like, "Oh, I got you. Like, do not be afraid to do
Mm.
this thing you're really unsure about because even if something like this happens, like, I'm gonna take care of you. Like, don't
Mm.
worry." And also, like, these people here are gonna have your back, just the way that, like, Cynthia Newland literally like pulled me out of the car and just like
Wow.
took such good care of me. So, yeah, that was it. That
Yeah.
was the
Oh,
sign. It wasn't
that's
the
amazing.
sign
I
that I
got
asked for, of
chills
course.
right there. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
how God does things, is he's never gonna do what you expect. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
back here, and the department, like I remember just the first couple weeks being back, just being like so like this is amazing. Like I haven't been in a Christian dance environment in so long, and just like we can pray and we can just improvise, and everybody loves Jesus, and it's so wonderful, because I was coming from such a
Yeah.
secular, culture in New Orleans that's almost like,
Mm.
anti-God and anti-Christianity. So I just felt so like,
Right.
oh, this is like such a beautiful blessing. And I could just like breathe. And I just feel like I really appreciate it in a new way now, and just appreciate the community and the people and the
Mhm.
art making. And, but there's been like a lot of changes in the department that are different. So that's just interesting to see is like, be like, oh, you guys have it a lot easier than we had it. So like
Exactly.
Like it's still a
Exactly.
really
We
rigorous,
had to
intense
climb uphill
program.
both ways to, no, just kidding.
Yeah, but
That whole
there's
thing.
been some like, some things that have happened to make the students' lives, I think, a little bit easier, which is great. And I'm very
That's
happy.
good. Yes.
But I think it's just interesting to compare and contrast.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this people that were teachers there are still there, so that's really cool. And, some of my friends now are professors there from when we went to school together. So yeah, it's just a cool
Yes.
community of like people that are my friends, but then also like sometimes my professor in a class. And yeah, and I think the other biggest like unique maybe challenge is that I am the only person in the MFA program right now, and I have been
Okay.
for about a year. Like when I first came in, there was one other person, but she graduated. So yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of difficult because it does feel a little bit isolating because no one else is doing what I'm doing and taking the classes that I'm taking
Right.
exactly, and really going through the thesis process. I feel like the undergraduate students kind of have each other, so there's that sort of camaraderie of like getting through it together that I so missed
Yeah.
because I remember what that was like. And it was like I wouldn't have made it without, all my peers. And then, the professors who are just teaching and not getting an MFA, they're all doing their thing together and just working. And then there's just me who's like
Mm-hmm.
kind of teaching, but also like being a student. So,
Right.
and I
Like,
was
here
told
I
that
am.
would be a
Yeah.
unique part of it. So yeah, but I
Yeah.
think it's really kind of settling in now that I'm starting my thesis and just a really difficult process and just feeling like, oh man, I do wish I had some peers, but
Right.
that's kind of God's provided a lot of people outside the department as well, like community here. So
Mhm.
I'm
That's good to kind
I'm
of help be a
settling in.
support. Good, good. Yes. Do you want to share a little bit about your thesis project? If you're
Sure.
able to. I don't know how much you can share at this point, but
Yeah, it's very preliminary stages because I this is first semester and then I have two more semesters of thesis. So
okay,
I'm
cool.
looking at like using the body as like a bridge to explore the subconscious and the conscious parts of our
Ooh,
brain. So I'm looking at like studying dreams and like subconscious movement that we do. So I'm trying to essentially find more modes of creativity from tapping into my subconscious brain and exploring that through movement. So like
cool.
choreography from the subconscious. So it's kind of
Nice.
weird.
Yeah, no, I
And I
love that.
feel like
That's
it'll
really
become
cool.
more clear and more easy to explain the more that I work on it. But that's where I'm at
Yes,
right
for
now.
sure. For sure. Well, I love your creativity, and I think this will be a really neat kind of way to explore that for sure, and from a
Thank
different
you.
angle. So that's really
Yeah,
exciting and
I am
exciting to see
excited.
how it'll all come together. So, thinking like almost maybe comparing and contrasting a little bit from pre starting your MFA to now, do you feel like your approach to choreography or teaching has shifted, or anything kind of, yeah, maybe that's the best way to say it. Anything
Yeah.
changed or shifted in your approach?
I think so. I'm just trying to get the most out of grad school and this learning experience. I'm trying to push myself. It's like I already developed these ways of working and choreographing and teaching through my experience. However, I'm trying to push. This is the time, I think, to explore and try new things and investigate, when you're in school. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring new methods into my teaching, and I'm trying to create new processes for the way that I choreograph. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to just like think about things in a new way. And, I've learned a lot about like somatics and different somatic approaches. So I think as a teacher, I'm very much like I've always been this way, but I think even more now that I'm really pressing into it and able to like teach adults and teach college students is like really looking at the whole person as I'm teaching. So just how everything is
Yes.
related. And I've been doing like identity work with the students, like,
Oh,
knowing
cool.
who you are in order to, find your artistry from there. So just really inside out processes, not outside in. So like, let's take away the mirrors. Let's all like inward sensing. It doesn't have to be super deep and spiritual, but just like even like what do you sense in your body? Where is the tension? Like where is your strength? Like can you move your torso from the center of your belly? How does that, differ your dancing and your
Mhm.
movement? So I think I can sometimes be like that experimental weird teacher in the modern dance
That's
classroom.
awesome.
Yeah, but I love it, and I really enjoy like just I think that I when I look at my students, I don't see them for how they dance, I see them for who they are. And that's been a really beautiful experience. And just trying to like
Yeah.
help nurture and develop that
Mm.
person, not just the way they dance. So
Yes.
yeah, and that's been really like my passion,
Mm.
being there and
Yeah.
trying to
That's so
take those same
beautiful. I love the
things.
idea of how, who they are as a person can also continue to come through their dancing like more and more in a way.
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes any sense,
No,
but
it does. Yeah. And
like, yeah,
I know for myself, like the more confident I feel in myself and the more that I've learned and like really stepped into like who I am, I dance better. So
right.
it's not even,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
It's
can
just like,
train how to do a perfect
yes.
tendu for years, but it's like
Yeah.
ultimately like you're gonna dance the best that you can dance when you are fully the most fully realized version of who you are. And I think that like
Yes.
college is like the best time to like develop and like dig into that. And obviously that person is going to continue shifting and growing and,
Hmm.
self-realizing throughout your growth.
Yes.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
but yeah, I think it's a good time to at least start. And I think that, sometimes
Hmm.
a lot of times we don't even consider those things before college, like because high school is
Right.
often, you're just going through the motions, just trying to make it through school and make it through navigate peer stuff and friends and
Hmm.
relationships and yeah, so yeah, I think that
Yeah.
I
It's a
sometimes
sweet
get a lot more
time.
passionate about just that than I do even like dancing and dance technique.
That's amazing. I
So I
love
have to
that.
make sure that I also continue to focus on that.
That's so
Sometimes
great.
I
I
gotta
love
pull
it.
myself back down to earth when we do those like movement evaluations. I'm like, okay, but are their legs straight? Or like,
Right. That's
are
so
they doing the
perfect though.
drop
I love
swing
it.
correctly?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like there is technique, but I appreciate your heart for that
Thank
and your
you.
heart for them understanding like their identity, and who they are. So beautiful, and it's really special and fun to see like you just continuing to impact the students, impact the people around you, and just the gift that you bring to the world for who you are as well. And so thank you, yeah, for sharing that with us today as well. And yeah, it's always so crazy how fast these go, but or it feels
Mhm.
fast to me anyways. I'm like, let's keep
Yeah, I
going.
know. There's just so much to
Yeah,
talk about. Yeah.
I know so many different things, but I love what we've gotten to kind of dive into even a little bit, and maybe people can
Yeah,
connect up with you later to chat
of
more. But
course.
yeah, but I would
Yeah, and
love to
it's just such
hear.
a niche thing what we do, like being a Christian dance artist. It's just so nice to be able to like talk about it with someone, that understands like what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Because I even like now, like, being in my 30s and I meet people out in the world, I'm like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, oh, I'm a dancer, I'm queer, I do these things. And they're just like, okay. And then if you're like, I'm a
Oh,
Christian dance artist, it's even more. They're like, what does that mean? So
right.
yeah, it's just like nice
Exactly.
to talk about.
Yes, it's kind of validating in a way, and just yeah, good
Mhm.
to have like, okay, we're not alone, which is
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for
definitely.
doing the series. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. I would love to just ask a couple last questions just
Yeah.
for fun as we wrap up. This one is a little deeper, but
Okay.
basically, is there anything on your heart right now that you want to share with fellow artists, and maybe specifically could be like generally or specifically other Belhaven alum who are out there doing their thing in the world?
Yeah. I think that it's okay when your creativity and your artistry or your work ebbs and flows. It's okay to take breaks and step away from what you're doing. And it's also okay if your journey doesn't look like what you think it would look like. I think we talked about that a
Mm.
little bit earlier, but I just find that, we can be really hard on ourselves and we can be like, oh, if I'm
Mm.
going to be a creative artist, I need to continue to create no matter what. Or just like, if I don't have these jobs, if I don't do these things, if I'm not like, checking off the life plan, like I'm failing.
Hmm.
And I just, I've found that to not be true. Like I've experienced a lot of twists and turns and a lot of things that didn't work out like I thought they would in my life. And I found that allowing myself time and space to step away from creating or from working in the way I was working has been so instrumental to healing and development, ultimately like growth. Because if I didn't, give myself time and space, I think I probably would have floundered and it would have taken a lot longer to get through like, experiences of grief and mourning. And that's just a human
Yeah.
thing that we all go through. And especially as artists, we're such like feelings people and we have to process those things.
Hmm.
And I have processed some of that through art and through creating, and that's been really therapeutic. But I've also processed some of that through doing nothing and just giving myself some time to just like sit and like sit with it and have a job where maybe I didn't have to think so much or create so much. So yeah,
So
I
good.
guess just like encouraging, I don't know who else out there. I'm sure, I mean, we're all going through things all the time, but it doesn't define you. What you do doesn't define you. Who you are defines you. So if you have to stop doing what you feel is super important to you or defining aspect of who you are, it doesn't change who you are. It's just giving yourself some space.
That's beautiful. Yes. So good. So good. Yeah. So final just fun question is basically, is there anything that is one of your favorite things currently?
I have been trying to get into gardening, so that's been like fun. Like that's my
Nice.
summer like hobby plan. Like I'm getting a planter box built and I'm gonna plant some flowers and like I have some herbs going. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And then another like thing that I've discovered that I love so much is donkeys. So yeah, I just love donkeys. And I read this book about donkeys like a year ago, and ever since I've been like obsessed because they like did this like donkey therapy thing that like changed their life. So
Okay.
I'm pretty passionate about like somehow fusing dance and donkey therapy. So
Oh,
if
cool.
anyone has any ideas for that, let me know because those are where my passions are converging right now.
Love that. That's so fun and so like not what I would have even like considered. So it's so cool. I love it. That's why this question is so fun.
Yeah.
Hear what people are doing and what you're passionate about at the moment. So, so cool. Well, I would love to let people know where they can connect with you and yeah, follow along with your journey. Probably, hopefully, see some, continuation of your thesis developing over the next year as well. And yeah, so what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, probably just my Instagram accounts. My personal account is my name L3377. And then you can also message me on my company page, which is at ELLEvate Dance. And ELLEvate has two L's. So it's my name, ELLEvate Dance. So yeah,
Awesome.
feel
That's
free to reach out to
perfect.
me there. And I love to chat and connect.
Love it. Yay. Well, thank you so much again, Elle. This has been so sweet and just such a gift to get to reconnect with you. And yeah, just love that we got to spend a little bit of time together today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Rachel. It's been really, really fun.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. Until next time, remember that you were designed to create. You were made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. I'll see you next time, friends.